October the 9th, 2023. Guys, you're looking at Google Earth, and we're looking at Israel. You can see the Gaza Strip here, very small area. It's actually about 22 miles long. I think about 8 miles at its widest here. Not a very big area at all. If you back this up, Israel goes down into the spearhead here, right here. Egypt's to the left. And then Egypt, this is southern Israel. Then when you get up around the Gaza Strip, you've got, this is Gaza, then you've got right here the West Bank with Hebron. And this is not Israeli territory. This is not. So this is kind of the choke point in the middle of central Israel, northern Israel, and southern Israel. So what we're looking at, the reason I'm showing you this, let me pull this back up to Gaza, is there's been some attacks in this area, and we've heard about Sderot quite a bit in the last 3 days. And I'm not going here to really go into all the details about the battle because it is all over TV. And when everything is pointed at one thing, especially mainstream media, you better watch out. And the reason I say that, in the first video I did Saturday, I think, about the situation, I said there was no way that Hamas planned this alone. Then we come to find out that, and Iran has said that they were very behind them, and I think they had training from them, supplies from them, things like that. And it came out today that Egypt had warned Israel several days ago that this was going to happen, but those comments or that warning was pushed away. Now, we're talking about, like I said, we started out saying there's no way that Hamas did this alone, and that was it possibly a false flag like Pearl Harbor or 911 or whatever it was. And now with the Egyptian warning prior to this, and that it was kind of pushed away, like I said, I think we're seeing something much deeper. But right now, let me just kind of say something that I'm seeing. This is Hebron, right here, West Bank. Israel's in the middle of Gaza. And if you look at the difference, again, you're 22 miles here as far as the length of Gaza, but when you come from here, where they're attacking in Sderot, you're only 22 miles also to the West Bank. And what they're trying to do, and again, this is not just Hamas, a lot of people are involved, they're trying to create a corridor, guys. And the corridor, which would be basically more than likely from Sderot, here towards the Hebron area, is the closest point between Gaza and Hebron, the West Bank. Hebron is the capital city. And they've made quite a bit of advances. Some of the information we're seeing with some of the highways and the cars and the bodies and all that are part of this situation. And what that would do would be effectively separate northern Israel from southern Israel and bring in Hebron, possibly Jordan. We got Egypt to the left, who says they warned them, that they warned Israel, and that was ignored. Now, let's back this out a moment. Again, right in this section, you've got Gaza, then you've got the West Bank, which is much larger. Notice how much area that it covers in the middle of Israel here. And this is kind of the central corridor. Tel Aviv's here, then you come up into Nazareth, and really you're getting all the way up into Jordan, Syria. Here's Damascus, a very well-known name. And again, if they cut that corridor, or if they successfully make this corridor from the West Bank to Gaza, what's going to happen? They're very well fortified. They have tanks, they have airplanes, they have missiles that have been supplied to them. One of the interesting things that I found out today was when the first attack came, which was ignored by Israel when the warning came from Egypt, was that a lot of the Hamas militants, or whatever you want to call their army, was in Israeli uniforms with Israeli weapons. Now think about that. So what was happening, guys, mass confusion. In other words, Israelis were coming down the highway, and it looked like an Israeli road block or checkpoint, and they all get killed because it was Hamas in the Israeli uniforms. Then Israel soldiers start shooting innocent Israeli civilians because they didn't know who was who, because of the deception by the uniforms. In other words, you come to a roadblock. Is it an Israeli roadblock, or is it a basically Hamas roadblock looking like an Israeli roadblock? So both sides are firing on the civilians and the army. It's kind of crazy how that's happening. Now, I think it is a little bit deeper than what we have been looking at. A lot of people are talking about biblical prophecy. I've mentioned that it looks like that's what's happening. But my good friend Roy Potter was on live earlier this evening. I'll put a link to his video, and he had some very important points. He agrees with the fact that more than likely a planned deal, with the sacrifice of a lot of people, thousands of lives, it looks like, that this was a fulfillment of man-made prophecy. Going back a couple thousand years ago, what Roy was talking about, it made sense to me that when you have the scribes, which were the Kenites as they came out of captivity, translating the Bible, then you get Rome involved, you get books taken out, you get transcriptions changed, you get the truth hid in the basement, then what do we really know? And his point was that during that time when the priesthood was supposedly coming out of captivity, it wasn't the priesthood anymore. It was the Kenite, or the sons of Cain, that was pretending to be the priesthood. And that's when things started to change. But his point, which I'm beginning to really think he's absolutely 100% correct, is that we're going back thousands of years into pre-planned events to make it appear as prophecy. That can have a couple of different advantages. One, it would be perfect for the Antichrist to come in and stop a war. Everyone knows that's a possibility, and pretend to be the Savior, right? The false Christ. But there's a lot of things happening, and you got to really open your ears and open your eyes and listen. Think about what I'm telling you. How much of this was pre-planned in the writings? Going back to Rome. These battles, the kings of the north coming against the kings of the south, kings of the east coming, so that when they did it, they wrote it down. We're talking about very evil people, entities that are very evil, that are running the nations now. Remember, the evil spirits go forward to the kings of the earth to bring them to a great battle. But how much of this has been planned for hundreds and thousands of years? Think about that. The writings putting into place their plan. That may be what we're dealing with here. And what I would be very concerned about is people falling for this, thinking and going straight to their Bible, when those words very likely were changed and again pre-planned and put in place to make this look like a religious event, possibly to bring in the Antichrist. But you got to be aware of what we're dealing with here. Very evil entities. They're not human. They're possessed bodies by very evil spirits that are here hell-bent on death and destruction. But what if Roy is right, and I think he is, a lot of these biblical events were put in place by Rome so that when it all came to fruition, we would think it was a major religious event. It's been going on for centuries. I don't want to take up much more of your time. Just wanted to throw that in. I'm going to put a link to Roy's video below. Take your time to listen to it. You're going to hear some righteous indignation, which is 100% warranted in this case, because we're seeing the collapse of the modern planet due to lies and possibly manipulation in our scriptures, regardless of your religion. So, again, we're watching this, guys. Just think about what I'm saying. The link will be below. It's a heads up. Be safe.